The House of Tesla game movie. The House of Da Vinci series from Slovakian studio Blue Brains has long established itself as a spiritual successor to the Room franchise, that mystical 3D puzzle game where you mysteriously examine objects, search for hidden elements, and solve intricate puzzles. The latest entry, The House of Tesla, continues the ideas laid out in The House of the Da Vinci. But instead of the Renaissance era, we are now in the turns of 19th and 20th centuries. Industrialization had reached its peak, and scientists and engineers who made discoveries we still use today had entered the worst stage. Among this constellation of figures, Nikola Tesla particularly stood out, a visionary innovator who was far ahead of his time. Tesla's biography is full of fascinating moments, and he has already been featured in films and referenced in games multiple times. The House of Tesla is another project where developers attempt to pay tribute to the Serbian scientist, but he seems to deserve a more ingenious and polished puzzle game. In The House of the Da Vinci, we played as a student searching for his missing mentor. The House of the Tesla constructs its plot differently. We wake up in the office with no memory of our past, so we need to figure things out. Moving from room to room, we solve puzzles, repair mechanisms, and collect fragments of memories along the way. The protagonists keep a diary while trying to understand what happened to him, which serves as another narrative element. Chronically, the House of Tesla unfolds after all the major events in Tesla's life, like the War of Currents had already concluded. He had long since moved from Europe to USA, survived the fire in his New York laboratory, and never finished building Wardenclyffe Tower. As we progress through the story, we periodically dive from the present into the past. The 1893 World's Fair in Chicago despises with a financier JP Morgan, friendly gathering with a Mark Twain. These flashbacks are presented through cutscenes where the camera flies around characters frozen in comically strange poses. While The House of Tesla isn't supposed to be about humor, it's impossible to watch these scenes without laughing. The game often deserves praise for its historical accuracy. Tesla's indeed experienced financial difficulties and tried to realize his idea of wireless energy transmission, and Morgan initially founded him but later stopped, which is what the aforementioned flashback with the bunker depicts. Thanks for the game, I learned that Tesla was apparently friendly with a twin. The writer is supposed to be a young scientist, and his electricity research and Darwin childhood illness, Twain's books were Tesla only comfort. This is also mentioned in The House of Tesla. However, the game also contains obvious fabrication. For instance, English occultist Lacey Crowley and his wife Rose Kelly appears as antagonists. I couldn't find any information about their conflict with Tesla, so the scriptwriters apparently wanted to insert a colorful opponent into the story. Given that Tesla actually had tense relationship with Thomas Edison and Guglielmo Marconi in real life, the choice of Crowley seems strange and justified only by the fact that these figures give the plot a fantastical mystical mode. Globally, the story in The House of Tesla won't be revelation. The amnesia trope alone speaks volumes, but let's be honest, people don't play this type of games for the plot anyway. Gameplay-wise, The House of Tesla is a classic puzzle game where the goal is to escape one room to get to another room and repeat until the end credits. Despite their 3D environment, we can only move by double-clicking the mouse to strictly defined points. Each chapter, 6 in total, has several room screens that you can switch between, so you definitely won't get lost in the game, but understanding what exactly it wants from you won't always be clear. There's inevitable pixel hunting and running from corner to corner, trying to use some item from your inventory. However, the emphasis here is still on local puzzles that need to be solved based on the condition present on the screen. The puzzles try to be diverse, but don't always succeed. The developers also like repeating the same task while slightly complicating them. This approach is not irritating, become tiresome at some point. Like previous Blue Brain studio works, the game turned out quite technical. Many objects need to be pulled, dragged, rotated, and everything respond pleasantly. However, the controls aren't always responsible and convenient. Sometimes, to make some detail move, you also need to fiddle with the camera. The physical implementation of puzzles is important, of course, but even more important is how interesting they are to solve. The House of Tesla has both good puzzles and quite questionable ones, and unfortunately the latter are in the majority. Very often, while simply trying to understand how a particular puzzle works, I would click through it to the correct solution without even understanding what the game wants from me. There are also several refrigerator-type puzzles, where you turn one part and the rest change position accordingly. Such puzzles certainly can be called inventive. The House of Da Vinci had a special tool, a globe with an oculi tempus lens. It allowed you to look inside other devices, see what the human eye couldn't see, including scenes from the past. The House of Tesla also has a similar invention related to electricity, simply called prototype. It visualizes so-called electrical potential nodes, and in certain places even allow you to control current connection some devices to other and making them work. However, you don't have to use this tool very often. From the outside it looks like a magic, but in the context of the Tesla's idea about wireless energy transmission, why not? After all, much of what seems like science fiction 100 years ago is now a commonplace for us. At the beginning of the last century, Tesla suggested that someday, thanks to small devices, people would be able to see and hear each other wirelessly, regardless of distance. This visionary ahead of his time with his ideas wasn't understood by the contemporaries and died alone. But his name isn't forgotten, and even this game is proof of that. The game's atmospheres fill me with the life of this early 20th century artistic, an abandoned laboratory where ingenious electrical inventions stand everywhere. The House of Tesla certainly can be faulted for lack of style, but it all looks like a 2070 game. If you put it next to the House of Da Vinci, you wouldn't say there's an 8-year difference between them. Blue Brain first game look even better. At least people moved there instead of standing like wax figures. Playing through the House of Tesla leaves a contradictory aftertaste. You can see that the developers carefully treasured Tesla's legacy, including the scientists, contemporaries, and his inventions in the game, and tried to convey the mood of the era, but the result itself turned out in such a way that you almost feel bad for Tesla. The House of Da Vinci series was much more polished and thoughtful, while here the studio seems to have taken a step backward. This game could have made us feel like a genius inventors, but instead we spent part of our time pixel hunting, and even more time on weak puzzles, some of which are solved by random brute force. In such a house, quests don't seem welcome at all. So to sum up all, Prose is a story built around scientists with an interesting biography and his inventions, turn of the century atmosphere conveyed in detail, puzzles attempt to be diverse and provide tactical feedback, and several genuinely memorable and interesting puzzles, and cons is most puzzles are boring. In some the logic is clear only to the developers, others are easy to solve by trial and error. Visually the game doesn't look like 2025. And no all localization present. Thank you for watching.